Have you ever heard of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, an ancient book containing profound secrets about the soul's journey after death? But few people know that this book has been hidden, even banned for centuries. Not because it is merely a collection of rituals or legends, but because it reveals truths that many powerful forces fear. The truth about the journey of the soul in the Bardo, the 49-day period of trials between life and death. Bardo is not just a mythical concept, but a state of spiritual existence that the soul undergoes before reincarnation or merging into the ultimate realm. These 49 days are a very real journey, where all your consciousness, karma, and understanding will determine the next destination of the soul. This truth is completely different from the conventional notion of death as an ending. Instead, it shows that death is a door opening to a new world, an important stage for the soul to choose its destiny. What makes the Tibetan Book of the Dead special and also causes it to be hidden is the way the book opens a door to see the truth. The material world you are living in may just be an illusion, and only when awakened can the soul escape the cycle of suffering. Religious and power systems have long tried to prevent the spread of this knowledge, as it disrupts old beliefs and control. The book is not only a map for the souls of the deceased, but also a living compass for those still here. It reminds you that your current life, thoughts, words, actions profoundly affects your destiny after you pass away. This is a call to awaken right now, so you won't be trapped in the endless cycle of reincarnation. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for 49 days after death, the soul will go through various stages of Bardo, from the radiant light to the profound darkness. This is the time when the soul confronts the truth about itself and the world, where fear and attachment to material things will make it difficult to progress towards freedom. But if the soul recognizes the illusory nature of the world and awakens during this phase, it can escape the cycle of rebirth and merge into the realm of ultimate enlightenment, an absolute freedom that many desire but few truly understand. Did you know that many Western cultures also have a tradition of mourning the deceased for 49 days? Although the methods and meanings may differ, this demonstrates a profound and timeless connection between cultures regarding the journey of the soul after death. When you understand this, you will no longer see death as an absolute loss, but as a part of the great cycle in the universe. This journey is not easy. It requires patience and perseverance. But if you feel these resonate, if you want to continue exploring the profound secrets of the universe, leave a signal. Be proactive in your spiritual journey, not just an observer of life passing by. The Alchemist's wisdom will always accompany you on that journey, with ancient and modern knowledge conveyed authentically, helping you get closer to the true freedom of the soul. There is an ancient book that dares to look death straight in the eye, not to challenge it, but to understand it, to walk with it like a guiding teacher. That book is the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or its original name, Bardo Thodol, meaning liberation through hearing in the intermediate state. Contrary to the way modern society avoids talking about death, this book is unafraid. On the contrary, it embraces death with open arms as a natural and sacred part of the soul's journey. For those who walk the path of awakening, death is not an end, but a door, a threshold full of potential. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is like a cosmic compass, guiding consciousness through the invisible realm. So what is this book really about? The Tibetan Book of the Dead is not an ordinary literary work. It is a spiritual guide passed down from the Vajrayana lineage, a profound and symbol-laden branch of Tibetan Buddhism. The book is not read for entertainment or academic purposes. It is read aloud by the bedside of the dying and continues to be recited for 49 days after their death, not as a ritual, but to awaken the soul on its journey through the intermediate world called Bardo. According to Tibetan teachings, consciousness does not vanish immediately after the body stops breathing. Instead, the soul enters a mystical space where time is no longer linear and reality becomes as malleable as a dream. In that state, the soul confronts spiritual phenomena, from the blinding light of wisdom to the terrifying imagined images created by an untamed consciousness. If the soul realizes that everything is just a reflection of itself, it has the opportunity to be liberated without the need for rebirth. But if there is fear, if there is clinging, if there is not enough awareness, then it continues to be swept into the cycle of rebirth, leading to reincarnation in another form. That's why the chants in the Tibetan Book of the Dead are so important. They are like gentle reminders from the other world. Don't cling to the light. Don't be afraid of the darkness either. All is just an illusion. But why is such a valuable book not widely known? Partly because it is too mysterious. Partly because its symbolic language is difficult to understand with modern thinking. And the rest? Perhaps because of the power it grants to humans, the freedom to escape the cycle of reincarnation without relying on any external mechanisms. A sufficiently aware soul can choose not to return. Perhaps that is the reason this book was once hidden, once deemed inappropriate for the public. But the times are changing. Nowadays, as people begin to question life after death, the soul, and the universe, these ancient pages start to glow again, like pieces of a map leading home. And if you are hearing these words, perhaps it is because a part deep within you is beginning to remember.
When the last breath leaves the body, the material world falls silent. No more noise, no more form. But consciousness, the soul, does not dissipate. It enters a state that the Tibetan Book of the Dead calls Bardo, the intermediate state between death and rebirth. Bardo is not a place, but an experience. It is a moment that lasts for 49 days, where the soul confronts its true nature, without concealment, without pretense, without a body to cling to. And it is in that space that the soul has the opportunity to be liberated, or continue repeating the cycle of reincarnation. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the journey after death is divided into 3 major stages, known as the 3 types of Bardo. 1. Chikhai Bardo, the stage immediately after death. In the moment the body ceases to function, the soul will see a blinding light, known as the light of absolute Dharma nature. It is the purest reflection of the cosmic truth, formless, without attributes, just light and vibration. If the soul is awake enough to realize that this is its ultimate essence, then liberation will occur immediately. No need for 49 days, no need for reincarnation. But that light is not as pleasant as we thought. It is too powerful, too transparent. For souls still tainted by fear, attachment, or ignorance, that light will make them turn away. And when they turn away, they enter the next phase. 2. Chonyad Bardo, the stage of phenomena. Here, the soul begins to see metaphysical images, often described as gods, Buddhas, colored lights, and sometimes terrifying images like demons, burning fire, or screaming sounds. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead makes it clear. Everything you see is a reflection of your mind. If your mind is calm, you will see the light. If your mind is disturbed, you will see darkness. These phenomena are not real. They are merely symbols of parts within yourself. This is a crucial phase. If you realize that nothing outside is attacking you, that all images come from within, then you will have another chance to awaken. But if you react with fear, with denial, then you will miss the second door. 3. Sidpa Bardo, the stage of preparation for rebirth. When the light and symbols fade away, the soul enters the final stage, being swept along by karma. All the actions, emotions, and unfulfilled desires from the previous life begin to act like a strong wind, sweeping the soul into a new form. This is the moment when spiritual inertia decides. Will you be reborn as a human, as an animal, or in other realms? It's not someone judging you. Your vibrational frequency will attract corresponding circumstances. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead asserts, even in the final moments of Bardo, if the soul recognizes the nature of everything as an illusion, as consciousness, then liberation can still occur. So, are 49 days real? The number 49 is not random. In Tibetan Buddhism, 49 days symbolize 7 weeks, each week being a new opportunity for awakening. During that time, the living will recite the Tibetan Book of the Dead, sending energy, light, and guidance to the soul, like a red thread connecting the two worlds. This practice is not just a ritual, it carries real power. Because in the Bardo stage, consciousness is very sensitive. The soul can hear, feel, and be guided if those chants carry genuine energy. Therefore, chanting prayers, praying, or simply sending loving thoughts to the deceased is never meaningless. It's like lighting a lamp in the darkness, reminding the soul, you are not alone, there is a path, and you can still choose it. For modern people, this concept may be unfamiliar, but if you have ever dreamed of deceased loved ones, felt their presence nearby, or sensed that your soul does not belong to the material world, perhaps you have touched the borders of Bardo. And if you are listening to these things for 49 days of a loved one, then the whispers from the Tibetan Book of the Dead are finding their way to your heart.
Bardo is not simply a waiting period. It is a fierce and miraculous spiritual journey where the soul undergoes the most profound transformations. And it is precisely what happens during these 49 days that will determine whether you are liberated or will continue to repeat the cycle of birth and death. Bardo is not like heaven or hell. Bardo is not a fixed place with angels or demons. It is a direct reflection of your mind. What you see is not objective reality, but yourself, pure and naked, without layers, without defenses. Have you ever been afraid of the dark? Have you ever felt guilt, anger, or deep longing? In Bardo, everything appears as vivid images. Nothing can be hidden anymore. But this is not a punishment. This is an opportunity to clearly see the nature of one's mind, and from there, awaken. The first gate, the supreme light. In the moment of dying, you are illuminated by the brightest light, called the Dharmakaya light, or the pure essence of the universe. If your mind is still enough, awaken enough, you will realize, this is me. I am this light. And if you merge into it, liberation will happen instantly. No need for reincarnation, no need to wander. But for most souls, this light is too dazzling, too real, too transparent. And when you turn away, you miss the first door. The second gate, gods and spiritual phenomena. When you do not recognize the nature of light, the mind begins to create its own world. You see Buddhas, colorful lights, and even terrifying shapes, from heaven to hell, from compassion to horror. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, those images symbolize your mind. The gentle lights are the compassion you once sowed. The intense sounds are unresolved anger. The gods are aspects of intelligence you have never unlocked. And the demons are the very fears you have never faced. If you realize that everything is just your mind at work, you have a chance for liberation. But if you run away or get caught up in emotions, you fall into a deeper layer of Bardo. The third gate, the wind of karma and the wrong choice. When all images fade away, you enter the final stage, where karma begins to unleash its full power. The wind of fate blows, not from the outside, but from the very frequency of your own vibrations. It pulls you back into a suitable situation. If you carry the energy of greed, you will be drawn to realms of scarcity. If you are filled with hatred, you will be reborn in a place of conflict. If you live with compassion and wisdom, you will have the opportunity to be born as a human and continue your practice. But this is also the time when one is most likely to make the biggest mistakes, because the soul, in a vague state, can be led astray by illusions, realms that seem bright but are actually delusions. You might be enchanted by some form, then suddenly reborn. How to awaken in the Bardo. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead, there are 3 important things. Awakened while still alive. If you learn to contemplate impermanence, understanding the true nature of your mind while still alive, then in Bardo, you will not be afraid. The mind, accustomed to recognizing the true nature, is not easily deceived by illusions. Guidance from the living. For 49 days, if your loved ones read the Tibetan Book of the Dead for you, it is as if they are holding a torch, illuminating the path through the darkness. The guidance, if emanating from love and understanding, will awaken the potential for the soul's enlightenment. Non-attachment. If the soul can let go of regret, resentment, and clingy love, then they will not be pulled into the cycle of rebirth. No more gravitational pull, no more attachments, they are free. What is the most miraculous thing about Bardo? That is, in every moment, you have the opportunity to awaken. No one closes the door. There is no God judging. Only you, facing yourself. And when you realize that all the light, images, sounds, even the faces of the gods, are reflections of your own mind, you return to the light. You become the light. You set free. In this world, we learn to hide ourselves. But in Bardo, nothing can be hidden. And perhaps that is the true opportunity to see oneself.
Have you ever thought that the Tibetan Book of the Dead is a book only for the deceased? An ancient scripture used to chant and guide the soul to another realm? Then you are missing the most essential, secret, and strange message of the entire book. The book is not really written for the dead, but written for the living, like you. Why is a book for the dead written for the living? In Tibetan tradition, the Tibetan Book of the Dead is not only read during funerals. They read it while still alive, read it during meditation, read it during times of crisis when the ego collapses or the world shatters. Because death, according to Buddhism, does not happen just once when we stop breathing. Death occurs every moment, when an idea fades away, when an old belief falls apart, when an old self crumbles. And this book is the detailed map for you to overcome those small deaths, so that in the end, when death truly arrives, you are ready. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is a book about awakening. Each chapter in the book is a detailed guide on how to recognize illusions, how to avoid panicking when the mind creates frightening images, how to avoid clinging to the alluring light and forgetting the true self, how to avoid being pulled by familiar karmic forces. Those things don't just happen when we die, but happen every day in our daily lives. When you are betrayed, it is a death of trust. When you lose something important, that is a Bardo. When you meditate, touch the stillness, and see the ego trembling, you are in the midst of Bardo. The Tibetan Book of the Dead teaches you not to run away, but facing, observe, realizing that everything is an illusion, and from that, awakening. When you live as if you are in Bardo, one day you might realize, this life is no more certain than a dream. Every role you are playing, the child, the lover, the successful person, is just a layer of consciousness you are wearing. And when each layer of clothing falls away, you stand naked in the realm of existence. No name, no form, no place to cling to. That is a moment of awakening. It is also what this book truly aims for. So, who should read this book? Not monks, not the dying people. But they are people who are alive but feel that something is dying within them. A broken relationship, a dream shattered, a phase of life has passed. If you are standing in a void, no longer the old you, but not yet knowing who you are becoming, you are in the Bardo of life. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the lamp that illuminates that darkness. It doesn't teach you to escape death, but to die properly. In modern life, we are taught how to achieve, control, and develop, but no one teaches us how to let go, the way to let go, the way to dissolve without panic. The Tibetan Book of the Dead is a guide to conscious dissolution, a journey that takes you through the final layers of illusion to return to the pure essence that has never been born and never died. You see, this book is not about death. It talks about freedom from illusion. And the paradox is, only when we learn to die a little each day do we truly know how to live.
Have you ever wondered if our soul truly has to go through a 49-day transition after death? Can we prepare in advance while we are still breathing? The Tibetan Book of the Dead is not just a roadmap to the afterlife. It is the guidebook to prepare you for that journey, starting today. Live with the mindset of dying, not pessimism, but awakening. In Tibetan Buddhism, death is not something to be avoided. It is the great teacher. He reminds us to cherish every breath, every emotion, every moment of the present. They remind us that all attachments lead to fear, and all fear dissipates when we are willing to let go. And the 49-day journey after death, that is the final test. Only when the mind is pure can we avoid being swept into the realms of samsara in the whirlwind of karma. So, what do we need to prepare? First of all, practice letting go, every day. There's no need to wait until you close your eyes to learn how to let go. You can practice this while drinking tea, while being angry, while seeing a desire arise. See without attachment, accept without holding, let go without regret. Because in those 49 days, every realm you see is a reflection of the clinging mind. If today you cling to money, status, love, then when you die, your mind will be drawn into realms of a similar nature. Start letting go from today. It is preparing the way for tomorrow. Next is meditation, finding the center amidst all the chaos. You cannot control the realm that appears after death, but you can practice something more important, maintaining awareness amidst all the chaos. Every minute you meditate, not to escape life, but to learn how to witness everything arising and passing away without getting swept away. In Bardo, this determines everything. Those who can look directly at the blinding light without running away will recognize their true self. Those who panic in the face of darkness will run into realms guided by karma. And finally, nurturing compassion, transcending the personal ego. In the days after death, a compassionate heart will be the bridge that leads the soul beyond fear. Compassion not only saves others, it saves you too. The more you live selflessly, the less you cling to the ego. Then when you leave the body, you will be lighter, broader, and brighter. Awakening does not happen in the moment of death. It happens from today. Many people believe that when they die, they will have a miraculous moment of enlightenment. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead makes it clear. If your mind is not accustomed to awakening while alive, it will be too late when you die. You cannot recognize the primordial light if you have never looked within your entire life. You cannot overcome fear if your whole life you are only accustomed to avoiding it. Bardo, not as far as you think. You are Bardo, right now. When an old version of you has quietly vanished and the new version has yet to take shape. Between those two shores is the void. It is Bardo. And if you learn to stay with this gap, awake, mindful, unafraid, then 49 days after death will no longer be a frightening mystery. It is just another journey. You are already familiar with it. Remember, you are not this body, not the thoughts, not an emotion. You are the one who sees all of that and remains unchanged when everything fades away. And the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the final reminder for you about that. You've heard about the 49 days, but what happens on the 50th day? The Tibetan Book of the Dead calls it the moment of destiny. The soul, after journeying through illusions, light, and darkness, will choose a path. Or, if fortunate and awakened, it does not choose but attains awakening. The three greatest possibilities for the soul after 49 days. The first is rebirth, according to karma. This is the most common outcome. After the journey through the Bardo states, if the soul is still influenced by desire, anger, ignorance, or any attachment, it will be pulled into a realm that matches that frequency of consciousness. If the mind is too immersed in pleasure, it will be reborn in the realm of desire. If the mind is strongly angry, it will be reborn in the hell or hungry ghost realm. If the mind is bright and virtuous, it will be reborn in the human or heavenly realm. Rebirth is neither a reward nor a punishment, but simply the natural continuation of conscious energy. The second possibility is to temporarily reside in the intermediate realm. There are souls that are not light enough to transcend, but also not heavy enough to be immediately reborn. They linger in an intermediate layer, where consciousness wanders like a dream. This is why many cultures, such as Japan, South Korea, and Vietnam, hold rituals for 49 days to help the soul find its way. And therefore, the intention, the prayers for the deceased, the chanting of sutras, or even just a candlelight can create a wave of resonance that helps the soul find its way. And therefore, the intention, the prayers for the deceased, the chanting of sutras, or even just a candlelight can create a wave of resonance that helps the soul find its way. The third ability, which is also the rarest, is enlightenment and transcendence. This is a rare ability, but not impossible. If during that 49-day journey, the soul realizes that all images are born from the mind, if it stops, neither chasing the light nor fleeing from the darkness, if it looks directly into its own empty yet wise essence, then it attains enlightenment. No rebirth, not stuck, only pure light, returning to the origin. So, the place the soul goes to is not a location, but a state. The concept of going somewhere sounds like a movement in space. But in the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the soul does not go anywhere. It transforms energy levels, it transmutes consciousness. The soul goes to the place that corresponds to its mind. If your mind is fearful, you will enter a realm corresponding to fear. If your mind is filled with compassion and mindfulness, you will enter a state of peace. The book was hidden, but the truth was still passed down. Although the Tibetan Book of the Dead has been banned, hidden, and misinterpreted, its core message has never disappeared. You are not the body. You are the luminous mind, unborn, undying. It's not just faith, but it is a profound experience that anyone can taste if they have the courage to look within. Final message: death is not the end, it is a door. If you are hearing these words, you might be losing someone, or fearing losing yourself. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead reminds us nothing is truly lost. It's just a change of form. Consciousness cannot be destroyed. So don't be afraid. Live with a heart that is awake. And when the moment comes, walk with faith and inner light. Thank you for journeying to the end of this path with the Alchemist's wisdom. If these resonate in your heart, leave a signal. Share this light with those who need it. And always remember, death is not the end. It is an invitation to come home.